Okay, so in this week's parsha, Parshas Bay, we have the very first mitzvah that the Yidden are given as a nation. And that mitzvah is the mitzvah of sanctifying the new moon, Kiddush HaChodesh. And Hashem actually showed Moshe what the moon is supposed to look like when the moon is born. And what does it say in the pasuk? It says, Hashem said to Moshe and Aharon, this month shall be for you. That's the pasuk. So it's being said to two people, to Moshe and to Aharon, and this month shall be for you. Okay, so there are two different opinions. So if you have a paper, you can make two. You could make your first chart. We have Rabbi Shimon on one side, and we have the sages on the other side. Sages, the Chachamim. Yeah. So Rabbi Shimon says that when it comes to Kiddush HaChodesh, when it comes to sanctifying the new moon, testimony is kosher even by people like you. When we're going back to the pasuk, Hashem said to Moshe and Aaron, this month shall be for you. Even your testimony is kosher. What does that mean? What is Moshe and Aaron? Moshe and Aaron are brothers. Usually relatives, a father and a son, or two brothers, usually a pair of relatives, cannot be witnesses. According to Rabbi Shimon, this case of sanctifying a new moon is different than witnesses for anything else. For any other case, for any other time, you can never have witnesses that are related to each other. A witness that's a relative cannot give testimony about another relative, and two relatives together can't give testimony about anything. That's usually the case. Rabbi Shimon says this case is different, and in this case, relatives, two brothers or a father and a son, could give testimony that the new moon was born. And what is Rabbi Shimon's proof? His proof is, it says, Hashem said to Moshe and Aharon, Moshe and Aaron as brothers, this month shall be for you. Testimony is kosher even by people like you. Testimony is kosher even by people like you, which means that anytime there's brothers or relatives, people like you, Moshe and Aaron, two people like you, as in brothers, your testimony will be kosher. This month shall be for you. Testimony is kosher by people like you. That's Rabbi Shimon. The sages, the Rabbanim, say no. It doesn't mean this month shall be for you, meaning that as in brothers, that the testimony of brothers or relatives is kosher, but rather when it says it shall be for you, it means okay, that the testimony is transmitted to a rabbinical court. To you means human beings versus Hashem. This month shall be for you, meaning human beings are going to be the ones to decide when Rosh Chodesh starts, versus Hashem. Hashem is the one that always that decides when Shabbos is going to start. Hashem is the one that chose Shabbos. It should be the seventh day, and it came from Hashem that there should be Shabbos every seventh day. But the holidays, when the holidays are going to be, That's all based on the calendar, and that Hashem gave it to you, meaning Hashem gave it to human beings, meaning Hashem gave it to the Beis Din to decide when Rosh Chodesh is going to be, when the holidays are going to be. So we have two different opinions. You have Rabbi Shimon says, they're both using this, from this, Rabbi Shimon uses this verse as proof that relatives could give testimony, because it says in the pasuk, Hashem said to Moshe and Aharon, as brothers, this month shall be for you, meaning people like you could give testimony. And the sages say, no, don't learn the pasuk like that. No, that's not what it's saying. This month shall be for you, meaning the concept of deciding when Rosh Chodesh is going to be is for you as in human beings, as in the court, not Moshe and Aaron. The court gets to decide when Rosh Chodesh will be. And according to the sages, relatives cannot give testimony.
But if it's saying for you, for human beings, does it preclude? Does it exclude brothers? Does it say that specifically? Do you know what I'm saying? It sounds all very inclusive. It sounds inclusive.
Relatives or not. But Shimon is making an exception for this because of the small share.
Yes. Excellent. Okay. So usually relatives are not kosher for Eidos.
Right.
Rabbi Shimon says this case is different, and relatives can give Eidos. So the Rebbe Maharash, the fourth Chabad Rebbe, he comes and he gives a reason. Why is Rabbi Shimon saying that this case of giving testimony about the birth of the new moon, that this is different than any other case? What's different about this case?
Mm-hmm.
So the Rebbe Maharash says, why is this case different? Because when it comes to the birth of the new moon, the sages, the Beis Din, they have work to do. They are obligated to study the astronomical calculations. I know it's a hard word. Astronomy, okay? The Beis Din, they're obligated to learn and study astronomy, and that they should know whether or not what witnesses would come or not. They're obligated to know when, according to science, the new moon should be born.
In other words, the Chachamim are relying on science, not on Eidos.
So this usually the Beis Din only relies on witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, witnesses are wonderful, but the main thing is that they already know, before witnesses come, they already know when Rosh Chodesh is going to be. So we're not so reliant on the witnesses. We're not so dependent on them. We could survive without them technically, because there's there's something different here than any other case. Is because here the Beis Din already knows the information before the witnesses come to give the information. So that's why this case is different. And the proof is that today we don't have witnesses. Hillel came, and he was so brilliant, and he figured out a calendar, and the Beis Din were Makadish all the months forever based on Hillel's calculation. So we see that even today, we don't have this concept of witnesses that have to come and testify that they saw that the birth of the moon. So we see that the calendar, which is Beis Din's information before witnesses come around, stands on its own.
But was there ever a time where they needed witnesses that the Beis Din didn't have the calculations? Was there ever a time? I mean, they said had to start, the minhag had to start somewhere.
Excellent. In the time of the Beis Hamikdash, you had to have both.
Oh, okay.
According to both of them, according to Rabbi Shimon and according to the sages, when it was possible to have witnesses, you had to have witnesses. Then there came the other groups, and you see, once the witnesses came, then they would light a fire on top of the mountain, and that's how the news was passed to the next town. But then there were troublemakers who started making fires and started confusing everybody, and they saw that they couldn't continue this way. So then they couldn't continue. It wasn't possible anymore.
It wasn't reliable.
It wasn't reliable anymore, and then they just went with the calendar. But as long as it was possible, you had to have both. You had to have the based in know their information. They study astronomy. They know when it's going to be anyway. Plus, you have the witnesses. So Rabbi Shimon says, I don't have to have such great witnesses. Even if they're subpar witnesses, it's still okay because the Beis Din already has the information. So
what's the need for the witnesses at all?
That's an excellent question. So so you're asking the last question before the Chassidus, and the Chassidus is going to explain why we need the witnesses at all. But you jump the gun. You jump the gun, and you're at the threshold. I could put all the nigla aside, and I could answer your question according to Chassidus, or we could continue a little bit more with the nigla. Okay, a little bit more Gemara, a little bit more of a Gemara cup. Okay, so but that's excellent. That you're headed straight to in the right direction. Even more than the right direction. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what we have to figure out, why you need both. Why do you need both? But before we get there, we're going to take a few steps back to get there. Okay. So Rabbi Shimon says that subpar witnesses are also okay. And therefore we could use relatives. So the Rebbe asks this question, who cares what the Beis Din already knows? If you need witnesses, you need witnesses. So you need witnesses. So it should be why are we making a leniency over here for that you can use relatives? I'm saying I can use relatives because the Beis Din knows whatever they know. It's irrelevant what the Beis Din knows. If the Torah says you need witnesses, then you need the witnesses, the right type of witnesses. We can't make leniencies over here. So what is the rationale? What is Rabbi Shimon's rationale? What's really going on here? Okay. So these are incredible concepts in halacha. Let's look at the concept of witnesses in the first place. What is the power of witnesses? What is their job? What are they accomplishing? Witnesses in Torah, throughout Torah. Within witnesses, there's two elements. There's a logical element, and then there's an element that's above logic. The logical element is that I need witnesses to tell me what happened. The most, easiest example, you have a wedding, right? There are hundreds of people witnessing the chuppah, but yet there are two people that are the witnesses. And what is their role? So number one, and they can't be related to each other, and they can't be related to the chassan and kala, which is sometimes a difficult thing to find. So what are their roles? So number one, logically, they have to see that the wedding happened, and if they were to come to Beis Din, they have to come to Beis Din and say, we saw, to have the information and to confirm that the wedding happened. That's logical. Then there's something above logic. And that is that there's a decree. Hashem, to the decree of the king. A decree of the king, Hashem said that if there are two witnesses and you ask them questions and you verify that they're kosher witnesses, cross-examine them and make sure they're kosher witnesses, once Beis Din says these two witnesses are kosher witnesses, then they have a power to create the halacha. They have the power to create the din. They have the power to create they have the power to establish something new. And therefore, if you have two witnesses and they said Reuven borrowed money from Shimon, let's say, okay, and the Beis Din said that these two witnesses are kosher witnesses, there is a chance that they're lying. There is such a chance. And you could have 100 other witnesses come and say it's not true. But once Beis Din said that they're kosher witnesses, even if another 100,000 witnesses come, it doesn't matter. Whatever these two witnesses said, we accept what they said. We accept their testimony.
Yeah, other kosher witnesses saying the opposite. There is the concept of the witness, they getting the punishment, whatever they intended to bring on the other ones, because other witnesses have found that their witness is not kosher.
Right.
So
So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense. If you see news on two websites versus you see other news on or opposite news on 100 websites, it makes sense that what the 100 websites are saying that's right, and what two websites are saying is wrong, according to logic.
But it's not the 100 versus 2. It's if you ask to verify, but only Beis Din verify that they are kosher, they did, but then others come and basically verify with them also, or the questions that they don't do the process.
So there's no process. We're not interested in verifying. Once two people come and say, this is what I saw, and the Beis Din said that they're kosher witnesses, then we listen to what they say and we take their word for it. If they're lying, they're going to get punished. And if, but it's something that's above logic. It's something that's above logic that once the Beis Din established that they're kosher witnesses, then we're not looking for any other witnesses. We're not gonna say, oh, I don't know. Until you establish that they're kosher witnesses, go ahead, go find the other 100 witnesses. But once you Torah says it's a decree. Once I verify that these are the kosher witnesses, then Torah trusts them.
It's the job of the Beis Din to make sure they are.
And it's interesting that Torah trusts women when it comes to kosher, when it comes to Taras and Mishpacha. There's no one else that can.
When you say something, you have to tell your husband immediately.
And therefore, a woman who tells her husband she's a nida, she has to be the one to say, "Now I'm tahar." And it's amazing that the Torah trusts. The woman establishes for herself her status, and it's amazing. Just like Torah trusts a woman, and there is no witnesses. So it's an incredible thing that Torah, and the fact that Torah trusts, I think it makes it serious. If you're going to say that you're a kosher, if you're going to come as a kosher witness, Torah is going to accept you. So you better rise to the occasion. So there's a logical part to testimony and a part that's above reason. Logically, yes, I need witnesses to come tell me what happened, but then there's also this concept of above reason that even if there is a chashash, even if there's a doubt that maybe they're lying, Torah is a decree that Torah accepts the witnesses because once they're verified as kosher witnesses.
But it is logical, even though you say it's above logic. It is part, because when you think about, hang on a second, it's a little bit complicated in my brain. Who was the one, Eliezer? I can't remember the exact story, but because the Torah is for us, it's not for the Malachim. It's supposed to be here. So even if somebody comes, if the Sanhedrin or whoever the final decision says something, you go according to the people. Even if a witness, like, what was his name, Rabbi Eliezer, somebody came and said, a Bastel came out and said, yes, Eliezer is right, but you still hold by the Chachamim because they decreed.
Yeah.
Because the Torah is for us. It's not for. Yeah, right. So to me, that's logical.
Okay, so if it's logical to you, then even logical and logical and above logic, it's all relative.
Right.
It's all relative across the board. It's going to be relative. So relative to that, I need the information. Relative to that, the fact that Torah that once these two witnesses are established as witnesses, we accept it. That is above logic, relatively speaking, at least. Okay, now. So within the realm of above logic, there's a rule. And that rule is that relatives cannot be witnesses. Now, that's a decree. So it's in the category of above logic. But the fact that relatives cannot testify, within that, it's not logical, it's above logic, but even within that, there is a bit of logic.
What about the relatives?
Yeah. It's a decree that relatives can't testify, but we can understand why relatives can't testify. Because blood brothers, they're nageh b'davar, they love each other, and they're going to cover up for each other. So within the fact that it's a decree, within the fact that it's a decree, there is a little bit of logic of that we can understand why relatives cannot be witnesses.
The friends, they left. Like interesting.
Yeah.
Then it's friends even more.
Right, and it could be that brothers fight with each other.
Like the friends, like
I'm sorry?
You could be closer to your friend than to your brother.
Yeah.
That's also true.
Yes.
Okay. So what is Rabbi Shimon's rationale? Rabbi Shimon says, because you have
It was for the dinner, for the building fund or whatever for the Deutsch, for my daughter. Yeah, not for the pledge. I don't know. Sorry, I'm in the middle of, yeah, okay.
no problem. So the Rabbi Shimon says like this, because since the basin already has the information, they already studied the astronomy, they already know when Rosh Chodesh is going to be. So the fact that basin knows when Rosh Chodesh is going to be, that is so powerful that it takes the place of the part of the witnesses coming that are above logic. So again, why do we need witnesses? For two reasons. Number one, for logic. Logically, we need witnesses. And number two, it's a decree from God. It's a decree that witnesses establish something. But since Beis Din already, I could rely on Beis Din to establish it. The proof is that they established it for me till today. So that the above nature element of why I need witnesses in the first place is taken care of by the fact that the Beis Din already could establish it on their own. So I don't need witnesses to establish anything new because the Beis Din could already do that. So the only reason why I need witnesses is just to clarify, just for the logical part, not for the decree part, not for the establishing part. And therefore, the whole reason why relatives are not allowed is for a reason that's a decree. So therefore, since I don't need the witnesses for the above nature part, I could have relatives. And if you tell me relatives, there's a logical part why we can't use relatives, because they're negeh b'davar, because they might cover up for each other. Here, there's no reason to cover anything up. It's just the moon. There's no reason for them to lie. There's no reason for them to
not be objective.
To not be objective. Thank you. And therefore, relatives, according to Reb Shimon, are acceptable. Okay, so if I had to make this into a chart, did I bring a pen? Okay. If I had to make this into a chart, what would I do? Okay, so we have I would start off and say, I would say witnesses. Why do I need witnesses? So I'm writing witnesses on the top of the page, and I'm going to make one arrow this way, one arrow that way. One reason why I need witnesses is because it's a decree. It's a decree from heaven. It's above logic. There's a decree, it's above logic that witnesses, what do? They could establish something. They could establish them. They have the power to establish something. And then on the other side, why do I have witnesses? Just logically, I need witnesses to give me the information that I need. That's the reason why I have witnesses. That's why I have witnesses in the first place. One, because I need them to establish something, and two, I need their information. Comes Rabbi Shimon and says, in this situation of a new moon, when it comes to a new moon, I don't need, make a big X. I don't need the witnesses to establish anything. So therefore, all I need is them to confirm. All I need of them is to confirm that they actually saw it happen. All I need is their information. So therefore, why could I use relatives? Because the reasoning for the relatives, the reason why I can't use relatives is because there's a decree. There's a decree that I can't use relatives, and the fact that the logical part for why I can't use relatives is because I'm afraid they're going to cover up for each other. But I don't have that problem here because there's no reason for them to be objective or subjective. Okay.
Because it has to be the new moon. If it comes to a wedding, they would be. We have to do the same thing for everything. Is that what it is?
No, so a wedding is different. This is the only case that's different. Only with a new moon for a wedding, I can't use relatives.
Right,
No,
in this case, you can't either same.
Because
There's a
in the
decree.
case of a wedding, by the case of a wedding, I can't have relatives.
Right, so here you can or you can't.
According to Rabbi
You can.
Shimon,
You can,
only according to Rabbi
There's
Shimon,
no reason to reject it. Nothing like it's like a wedding, because right, I hear that. A wedding is not like, right, I hear that.
so according
I don't
by
think that's not
wedding,
necessary in the first place to establish it anyway.
Right.
yeah. So by a wedding, I need the Eidim to establish and to see it. Here, I don't need the Eidim to establish anything because I already have the calculations that the Beis Din made on their own.
So we're doing it just because Hashem said so.
Okay, wait. So according to Rabbi Shimon, let's just have Rabbi Shimon's perspective. According to Rabbi Shimon, so there's three things. There's calculation, the calculations that the Beis Din makes on their own before witnesses come, and then the advantage of witnesses usually is that A, they establish something, and B, they give information. But I don't need them to establish anything. I could use the calculations that the Beis Din made instead of I'm cutting and pasting. Usually witnesses establish and they give information. I'm cutting out the fact that they established something, and I'm replacing it with the fact that the Beis Din already did their own calculations. So according to Rabbi Shimon, I just need calculations and information. I need the witnesses to give information. I don't need the witnesses to establish anything. And therefore, to establish something, that is a decree. And the fact that relatives can't be used for witnesses is also a decree. But I don't need them for the decree part. So therefore, I could use them because it's just a logical thing that I need. And therefore, the only reason why the relatives are excluded is because of the establishing aspect. They don't have the power to establish something. Relatives don't have the power to establish something. It's a decree. I don't need them to establish anything because I already have that. I have the calculations from the Beis Din. So therefore, according to Rabbi Shimon, I could use witnesses. I'm sorry, I could use relatives. And the Chacham, the Chacham, which is what halacha is, says no. Okay, so the sages say no. I do need to have regular witnesses, full-fledged witnesses, no relatives, and I also have to have the calculations of the Beis Din. I need both.
Mm.
And the question is, why? Why do I need both? Okay, what I'm gonna there is one more tiny very interesting part of the Gemara. I'm gonna throw it in. But if it's too much, then just delete. Okay, you could ask a question. The Jewish people had to convert to become Jewish. They went to the mikvah. When they became the Jewish nation, it was a conversion process. Before they received the Torah, they had to go to the mikvah. They had to have a bris milah. It was a conversion process. We know if there's a convert, right? If you have twins that are converts or brothers that are converts, once they converted, they're not, according to halacha, there's a decree. It doesn't make any sense, but according to halacha, they're not considered brothers.
Mm.
So going back to the verse that says that Hashem spoke to Moshe and Aaron, you as brothers, I'm giving it to you, that your testimony is valid according to Rabbi Shimon. How could Rabbi Shimon say that? Moshe and Aaron were converts, let's say. And so according to halacha, you could say that Moshe and Aaron weren't really brothers, and therefore they're allowed to give testimony because they're not really brothers. But that only works for them. What about for all the future generations? The time of the Beis Hamikdash, two brothers that didn't convert. They're two brothers. So how could you say that relatives can be witnesses? So the answer is that it doesn't matter if there's a conversion or there's no conversion. It doesn't matter because we don't need anything to be established. I don't need anything to be established. So whether even if they are relatives, it's not a problem because I'm not looking to establish anything. I already have that taken care of from the research, from the calculations that the Beis Din made, and therefore it doesn't matter if there is conversion, if there's no conversion. It doesn't matter. The whole thing is not relevant because I'm not looking to establish anything. Instead of using the witnesses to establish something, I'm using the Beis Din's calculations instead of having the witnesses establish something. The whole fact that the whole concept that witnesses are given the power to establish something usually isn't given to relatives, but it never is given to relatives. Relatives can't. They can't establish something. Just like I can't come to court and testify against myself. No one, even if I'm a pious person, no one is gonna. I can't testify against myself. There's just some things that just don't work. It's just not. No one's gonna take testimony if you testify against yourself. So the same thing. Relatives do not have power to establish anything. So you could say, oh, they converted, so they're not really brothers, but it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant because we're not looking to establish anything. We're relying on the Beis Din's calculations to establish something because their calculations establish what we have till today. So we're not looking to establish anything. It doesn't matter, converts, not converts. We don't need it. All we need, according to Rabbi Shimon, is two witnesses, relatives. Doesn't matter. They could come and just say, "We saw the new moon." They say what we don't need them to establish. We just need them to verify what the Beis Din already knows, and then it becomes Resh Chodesh. That's all according to Rabbi Shimon. And the Chachamim, the sages said no. The sages said we need both. We need the Beis Din to make the calculations, and we need the witnesses to come and establish, and we need the witnesses to come and clarify that they saw what they saw. And the question is, why? Why do you need both? Why do you need both? Why is just witnesses not enough? Why isn't just Beis Din enough? Witnesses enough, everything else. We don't see calculations anywhere else. Why is it that we need both? And the answer is, we don't have an answer for why we need both. According to Nigla, we have to go to Chassidus to answer why we need both. Okay, so the hard part is behind us. I apologize for the
Very good. Broke it down very nice.
yeah, I apologize for the difficulty of this, but now that we went through all the Gemara part, we're gonna appreciate so much more the Chassidus. I could have just done the Chassidus, but when you see all the background, the back and forth, the arguments, it makes it so much richer. Okay, so why do we need both? Because this mitzvah of sanctifying the new moon is so important. It's such an incredible mitzvah. It's actually the first mitzvah that the Jews were given as a people. Okay, so you could argue bris milah, you could argue the mitzvah of pru revu, to have children, but the fact that Avraham Avinu was told to have a bris milah, the reason why we have a bris milah today is not because Hashem told that to Avraham Avinu then. It's because when we got the Torah, Hashem told us that we have to have a bris milah. So yes, Avram did it then, but the first and Pur Revu was given to Adam Rishon, and you can't have a world until you have children, without children. But the first mitzvah that was given, not just to humanity, but to the Jewish people.
For his Rashi, that even going back, if the Torah is a book of mitzvahs, you should have started with
Yes. So Rashi asks right in the beginning of the Torah, why is it, and to the fact that the fact that Rashi says that the mitzvah of sanctifying the new moon is the first mitzvah, we have to rely on Rashi that it's actually the first mitzvah, right? So it's the first mitzvah, and it's such an important mitzvah that therefore we're going to need both. We're going to need witnesses. And we're going to need the calculations of the Beis Din. We need both of these concepts, and we're going to see what those translate as. So this is the first mitzvah. But we could question that. Why is it the first mitzvah? Why is sanctifying the new moon the first mitzvah? What do you think should be the first mitzvah? To believe in God. Anochi Hashem Elekecha. Right? Shouldn't Anochi Hashem Elekecha, to believe in God, be the first mitzvah? If I don't believe in God, I can't do any mitzvahs. Right? I first need to have the Kabbalas all to know that there's an Eibishter in order to fulfill any of the mitzvahs.
Yeah. No.
Right? I have to have Yiras Hashem in order to fulfill any of the mitzvahs. So why is it that to sanctify the new moon, what's so incredible about that comes first? So the answer is yes. Anochi Hashem Elekecha, that is the foundation. Without Anochi Hashem Elekecha, without I'm your Lord, I'm God your Lord, I am Hashem your Lord, there's no one's doing any mitzvahs. In order to perform any mitzvahs, you need Anochi Hashem Elekecha. You need to have belief in God. But the mitzvah of sanctifying the new moon, that is our mission statement. And before you, just like you want to open a business, before you do anything, you have to know where you're going. What's your mission statement? This mitzvah is our mission statement, and therefore it comes first. How is it our mission statement? What is our mission statement? It's Rosh. What happens when the birth of the new moon? We're establishing. What are we establishing? Rosh Chodesh. What is Rosh Chodesh? Chodesh comes from the word chidush, something new. Our mission is to, at every moment, to create something new. What does that mean? Hashem created this most incredible world. How did Hashem create this most incredible world? What did he do? He created yesh, he created something, many some things, yesh me'ayin. He created something from nothing. That's incredible. But there's something even more incredible than that. And that's why it says, that the deeds of the righteous are greater than the creation of heaven and earth. What do we do as righteous people? What do we do? What's our job? To take everything to take the yesh, to take everything that we see, to take everything that exists and rip off the mask and show that it's really ayin, that really it's only Hashem. And that is an incredible chiddush. It's an incredible novelty. It's an incredible thing. It's an incredible new thing to be able to take everything that Hashem created and to transform it back to its essence, to transform it back to what it really is, to prove that everything that we see really really is only Hashem, that there's nothing other than Hashem. That's our job. That's our mission statement. And this mission statement happens from two different directions. There's bringing heaven down to earth, and there's bringing earth up to heaven, which are both novel things. Heaven down to earth. When Hashem created this world, what does he do? Hashem is infinite. And then he creates physical things out of nothing. And he shows us a glimmer of his light. What does it mean, a glimmer? A glimmer is, if it's dark outside, pitch black, and all the lights in this room are off, and in that room, the light is on, and a little glimmer, a little bit of light comes from underneath the door. That's a glimmer. So when Hashem creates the world, it's just a glimmer of his infinite light. But what do we do? When we bring heaven down to earth through our service of Hashem, what our job is to make a dira b'tachtainim, a dwelling place for God down here on this earth. What is a dwelling place? What is a home? A home is a place where you can be free to be you. You don't have to have a suit. You don't have to have a fancy dress. You don't have to have a sheitel. You can wear a tuchel if you want. You can wear your fuzzy slippers. You could do whatever you want. If you want, you could jump on your bed and scream. If you want, you could do whatever you want. You could be you. You're not putting on a show for anyone. You don't need makeup. You don't need a uniform. You could just be you. Your essence can shine in your own home. You don't have to do anything for anybody. And Hashem wants that in this physical world, we should create a home for him. That not just a glimmer could be here. Hashem wants his essence, that we, physical human beings, our job, what could we do? We could do something so incredible, which is even greater than creation of heaven and earth, to bring God's essence down here. Not just a glimmer. That's an incredible chiddush. That's an incredible novelty. That through us doing physical mitzvahs, we bring not just a ray of the sun, to bring the sun down here, to bring Hashem's essence, not just a ray, a glimmer, a light, to bring his essence down here. That's an incredible chiddush. And also, if you go to bring earth up to heaven, to be able to take popcorn, a cracker, a soup, whatever it is, and to make a blessing, and to peel off the mask and to reveal Einoid Milvade, to reveal godliness, the spark of God in every single thing. That's an incredible chiddush. It's an incredible novelty. We learn about it again and again. So when we learn Chassidus from the cradle, this is the lingo that we speak, but it's really an incredible thing that physical human beings have the power to take yesh, to take something and turn it into nothing, to turn it into godliness, to turn it, to bring it, to prove its essence, that it's only Hashem, and to bring Hashem's essence, to make that Hashem should be comfortable to in this world, just like I'm comfortable in my house behind my closed doors. Those are both incredible chedushim, and that is our mission statement. And that's why we need both witnesses and calculation. We need eyewitnesses and we need the calculation. The calculation represents logic. And the witnesses represent above logic, because the main factor of the witnesses is that it's a decree from the king. The fact that relatives cannot be witnesses, that they don't have the power to be witnesses. And there's also a king can't be a witness. It's a decree from Hashem. So there's a logical part and there's an above logical part. The witnesses is above logic. And within ourselves, we have these two elements. When we serve Hashem, there's a logical part and an above logical part. The logical part is when I use my seichel and my midas, my intellect and my emotions to serve Hashem, then I can understand Hashem as much as I can, and I can internalize Hashem. The advantage, you see, the reason why I have to have both logic and above logic, both the calculations of the based in and the witnesses, is because each one has an advantage that the other one doesn't have. The advantage of serving Hashem from a place of logic, from a place of using my intellect, from a place of using my emotions, the advantage of it is that when I could understand, then I could internalize. When I can't understand, when it's above logic, then it only surrounds me, it surrounds me on the outside, but I can't internalize it. But that's also a very, very important thing. And that is, we see that through the concept of witnesses, which is above logic, and that represents our emunah, our faith, which is above logic. And that is, and where do we see faith? In the fact that there are eyewitnesses, that they have to see it. If I see something, you could talk to me logic from today to tomorrow. But if I saw something, seeing something is above logic. If I saw something, even if you try to convince me, the power that I saw is greater than my power of than the power that you could try to convince me something else. You can't disprove.
The way we understand what we see is according to what the lips I have in my head. So it's not always like two people see the same thing happening and they
Interpret it differently.
Yeah.
Yes, but still, let's think of an example. If you witnessed a car accident and you saw a red car, driving, if you saw a red car going through a red light and crashing into a blue car, you saw it. You saw it. Now, if someone try to convince you that the guy in the blue car, he's the one that crashed into the red car, or he's the one that crossed the red light, you say, listen, try as much as you want to convince me. I saw otherwise. You can't. I'm not changing. What? There's cameras. You see again. See. Whenever it's seeing represents Amuna. And when we say Amuna, it says that we have 5 parts of our neshama. The highest part of the neshama, the yechida, that sees. It sees the truth, and that's why we're able to have Amuna down here.
In Hebrew, we're saying "en yoter mimar'e einayim."
Yeah.
On the other hand,
That's the point.
most lawyers and judges and the whole law and whatever says eyewitnesses are very not reliable.
That's because they're humans and they have like their own,
That's
as
the
you said,
same. Eyewitnesses are not reliable many, many times.
Yeah, because they see.
That's the reason why I guess you need 2 to verify.
That's right.
And also a person could be a false witness and say, I saw X, Y, and Z, and they didn't
They see that the way they
process.
process it and they feel like it's what they what they make of what they saw. That's why they're not like so that they could
They don't say what they saw.
because their own personal agenda is mixed with what they saw. And for them,
They
it's
see
the
what they
real
wanna
truth
see.
in their mind because that's the way, but it's not.
what you wanna
That's why
see.
it got to be, two,
Sure.
and that's why they question them in all different ways, That's why the base knows how to.
And then there are people who are colorblind, who think it's a blue car when it's a red car.
We right away translate, we right away make assumptions.
Yeah. That's not the observation.
Right. So we have to, yeah. So we have to go to the observation. We have to look, if you're just judging by what you saw without using your seichel amidas, okay, just the raw concept of an eyewitness of just seeing, that is above seichel. That's a higher level than seichel. That's above seichel. So the disadvantage is that it's above the seichel amidas, and it's not internalized in the same way. And in order to do all this, we need two brothers. We need two people. We need Moshe and we need Aharon. And Moshe and Aaron are the Jewish people and God are compared to Chassan and Akala. The women, the Jewish people, are compared to the bride, and the God is compared to the groom. And just like by a wedding, you have to have escorts. You have to have people to since it's such a difficult thing to marriage, is a difficult thing to bring. Men are from Mars and women, to bring men and women together, bring a man and a woman together is a difficult thing. So they need someone to escort them to make it easier. So the man has the chassan has his escorts, and the kala has her escorts. So it says when it comes to Matan Torah, which is the marriage of God and the Jewish people, Moshe Rabbeinu is God's escort, and Aharon is the escort of the Jewish people. Moshe's job is to help God come down here, to help bring God's. So we're doing both. But Moshe Rabbeinu, when we do our avodah, with the help of Moshe Rabbeinu, we're able to bring God's essence down here, not just a glimmer. And with the help of Aaron was all about the people. Oyev Shalom, Roidev Shalom. He loved everyone, and he was always running after peace. So Aaron is the one. He is the escort for the bride. With Aaron's help, we're able to elevate the physical. We're able to elevate the physical and bring earth up to heaven. So we need to have both Moshe and Aaron to help us, and so we need both. We need both need both concepts. You need witnesses, which represent the concept of above logic, which was represented by Moshe Rabbeinu, which is bringing heaven down to earth. And then we also need the logic, the calculations, the Aharon. We have to serve God in both ways. To serve God from a place of seichel amidas, using our individuality, using our talents, using our, using everything, our physical bodies, using everything that Hashem gave us, and at the same time, we also have to serve Hashem from a higher place, a place of emunah, a place that's above intellect. We do both. We do both simultaneously, and ultimately. When we do both, when we combine both together, when we serve God both from a place of seichel amidas and from a place of emunah, from a place of faith and from intellect and emotion, then what happens is that even the emunah, the faith, the stuff that's above what we usually could internalize, starts flowing into our body, and we are able to internalize that as well. So we have the merging of both together. Okay, so I feel like I did that very quickly and in a nutshell. There's a lot that we could, unpack. with regards to this concept. I'll just share a story that my husband shared. There was a Malav Malka for our kids' high school. So my husband shared this story. And the reason why I'm sharing the story is to show that we need both types of avodah. We need to work to bring heaven down to earth, and we also have to bring earth up to heaven. Here's the story. There was a boy, and he was a son of Holocaust survivors. He was the only son. His parents both had, were married and had children before the war, and they found each other after the war, and they got married, and they had this one son. And he was a very big troublemaker. He was kicked out of many schools, and he landed in Bedford and Dean, which was a Chabad a yeshiva that took everyone. And he was a big troublemaker. And he spent more time in the principal's office than he did in the classroom. And and every time he got punished, or he would come to the principal's office and he had to do a knas. He had to, he would be given different assignments that he had to do. And he always told his principal, give me any assignment that you want, just please don't tell my parents. They had so much troubles. Just don't let them know that their son is such a, not such a good boy. Anyway, when he was 12 years old, his father said to him, in the old country, my children, I would take them to the rabbi of the town. I would take them to the, to the wherever he was, to get a blessing before their bar mitzvah. And you're 12, you're going to have bar mitzvah soon. So, and since you're going to the Lubavitch Yeshiva, I think it's a good idea that we should go for a yechidus, a private audience with the Rebbe. So he said, sure, no problem. Anyway, he comes to school and he says, I'm going with my father for an audience with the Lubavitch Rebbe. And his friend said to him, you are in big trouble. Why? Because the Rebbe is going to ask you questions in learning, and since you can't learn, you're not going to be able to answer the Rebbe, and it's going to be so embarrassing for you and for your father. And he said, okay, but he said, if I tell my father that I can't learn, that's going to be even worse. I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to hope for the best. What else could I do? He was very nervous. Comes the time that he's going into, comes the time for his yechidus with the Rebbe, and he comes in with his father, and the Rebbe speaks to his father for a few minutes, and then he turns to the kid and he says, can I ask you a question in learning? So the boy said, okay. So the Rebbe asked him a question in learning, something at the end of the Mishnah, something that usually most people don't get to it. But this boy, every time he got an assignment, what was the assignment they gave him? They gave him to write the Mishnah at the end of the Mishnah, because if I give you an assignment for brachos or for whatever he's learning, then that's just going to help. That's not a good enough assignment, because that's what you're learning anyway. So the assignment is something that no one's going to ever learn, something irrelevant, something that no one's going to ever learn at the end of the Mishnah. That's what he had to keep writing every time he got a punishment. And the Rebbe asked him a question on the material that he was always writing again and again, because he was punished so many times. And guess what? He knew the answer. So the Rebbe asked him further, and what does this Tana say about this? And he was able to answer. And the father is sitting there cavelling with nachas. My son, he's so amazing. He even knows the end of the Mishnah. And he's having a dialogue with the Rebbe, Mishnah, Gemara, and he's speaking to the Rebbe and learning. He was so happy. He was overflowing with joy. Anyway, at the end of the Chiddush is over, and he goes back to school. The next day, he was a changed boy. All of a sudden he realized that he could learn, and that someone believed in him. And he buckled down And he learned, and no one could recognize him. No one knew what happened to this child. When it comes to our service, to us serving Hashem, and as we're approaching Yud Shvat is the day that this month this past Shabbos we blessed the new month of Shvat, and Yud Shvat is the day that the Rebbe accepted upon himself the leadership, and it will be 75 years since the Rebbe took upon himself the leadership, and it's very important as Jews and as Hasidim of the Rebbe to understand that we can't just rely on a Rebbe. We can't just rely on our parents. We can't just rely on tzaddikim. Each and every one of us has to have our own oxygen tank. We have to do our work also. Yes, God helps us, and yes, our tzaddik, yes. So we have the Rebbe gives a mashal, a parable for Hasidus. And Hasidus could be compared to coal, and it could be compared to pearls. And when you go down to get coals, when you go down to the coal mine, it's very, very important to listen to the instructions of the leader. Yes, you have to listen to the instructions of the leader, but yet you need your own gas tank. You need your own, oxygen tank. You need your own oxygen tank when you're mining. So this is the concept that when we're talking about there's heaven and there's earth. There's Hashem, shining his light, and then there's us doing our part from below. So it's very important for us to we have to have both. We have to have both at the same time. This paradox. On the one hand, we have to do everything that we can with our seichel, with our midas. We have to believe in ourselves, believe in our children, and pick up our children, pick up ourselves, realize our value. And like the Rebbe saw the preciousness of every single individual and showed everyone, how great they could become. And so we have to do our part. And at the same time, we also have to have the Kabbalah Sol,
But everything that we're doing is also only because Hashem helps us doing it, because we cannot do it on our own.
right.
We have to do, but we know that it's from Hashem. All our powers, all our brains and abilities, everything we're able to do is not because Hashem gives us this ability.
Right. So we have to have the Kabbalah Sol. This is what we learned this in Tanya. We have to have the Kabbalah Sol, and then once we have the Kabbalah Sol, then we use all of our talents to serve Hashem. Yeah. So it's just an incredible. It's an incredible. It's an incredible teaching because it tells us that why are we here on this earth? It's not just for us to do what's right, to do a mitzvah, and to stay away from doing an aveira. And that's what most Jewish people think. We're here to get Olam Haba, to get brownie points, to get ourselves a good spot in heaven after 120 years. That's what most people think. It's not about me. But what are we learning here? That what's our mission statement? It's not about it's not about how great I can become. Right, because if it's about how great I could become, then let me just sit in my house all day and learn Torah and do mitzvahs, and I don't have to worry about anyone else or anything else. But our mission statement, the reason why we're here, is to make a dir b'tachtainim, to make a dwelling place for God on this earth, to bring heaven down to earth, to bring earth up to heaven, from every single direction to serve Hashem. We serve Hashem with our talents, with our sechel, with our midas, and we serve Hashem from a place higher than our sechel and midas, from Emunah and Kabbalah Sol. And everything that we do, from whichever direction we're coming, it's all for one thing, which is whether it be from logic, whether it be from calculations, whether it be from the calculations that the Beis Din does, or whether it be from above logic. Everything is circled around one center, one mission, and that is to make this world into a dwelling place for God, where God's essence could be revealed here, and that's what Mashiach is. That's what Mashiach is. So we need, we need both. We need Moshe, we need Aaron, we need Kabbalas Ol, and we need we need Kabbalas Ol, and we need our work. We need the help of tzaddikim, and we need and we need to also help ourselves and realize our potential and realize the potential of our children. Pick them up. We have to do both. We lift ourselves up and we bring heaven down to earth. It's just a very it's a very fundamental teaching. It's a very fundamental teaching because it brings so much together. Yeah, and we're coming from the this discussion about which kind of witnesses and to come to this conclusion of what our mission really is. Okay, so again, I just touched the tip of the iceberg, but yeah. Okay.
יש בציפ, אני חושבת שזה בסיס, כדאי למצוא מעשיות, איזה חודש. This is before the thinking was established. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'll end this, and then if anyone has any questions, we could continue.